everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. I'm your host, Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD. It's always JD. I'm so glad that we could get a much better recording of me impersonating you.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
Anyway, welcome. If this is your first episode, hi, hello. Nice to have you here. We are doing a pretty special thing for October right now where we are watching a bunch of extra movies. JD, would you like to explain our normal gimmick versus our October gimmick?
I would love to, Michelle. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No problem.
Since March of 2022, we have watched every new original and exclusive release that Shudder has put out. And for October, Michelle and I both carry on the 31 Days of Halloween horror movie tradition for several years now. And some friends of mine last year did the smart thing of converting that tradition into a podcast situation. And I thought, hey, that's a good idea. And so we decided to do that. Every day in October, we're going back and picking up an original or exclusive Shudder release that came out before we started the show.
Good job explaining.
Yay! Star with sparkles.
Yeah. What movie are we talking about today?
Oh my, let me tell you guys, we are talking about, it is not just an anthology film. It is not just a found footage film. It is in fact a found footage anthology film. It's called VHS 94.
Yep. Do you want me to read the description so you don't have to? If you are new to this podcast, you might not know how much JD despises anthologies and found footage. So
I wouldn't say despise. I'd say I'm very particular.
The
ones I would say as a general rule, yes, but the ones I do like, I really like.
That's fair. That's
okay.
Fair. Well, now that they're up to speed, do you want me to read the description?
Yeah, why don't you read the description from the Shudder website of V/H/S/94.
Also, until we started doing this, I did not know that there was a slash between the S and the 94, and that drove me crazy when I had to go back and fix all my graphics. So that was cool.
I bet you could have gotten away with it.
So another reason to be upset. Anyway, okay.
Here we go.
1994. After the discovery of a mysterious VHS tape, a brutish police SWAT team launch a high-intensity raid on a remote warehouse, only to discover a sinister cult compound whose collection of pre-recorded material uncovers a nightmarish conspiracy. VHS 94 marks the return of the infamous found footage anthology franchise with segments from VHS alumni Simon Barrett and, I wrote down how to pronounce this, Timo Gianto, and new additions from acclaimed directors Jennifer Reeder, Ryan Prowse, and Chloe Okuno, a Shudder original.
Deep breath.
JD, why don't you hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts?
Spoiler-free thoughts on VHS 94. So I saw the original VHS. I saw VHS 2. I did not ever see VHS Viral because I didn't really care for VHS or VHS 2. As Michelle said, I'm not typically a big fan of anthology films. I'm not typically a big fan of found footage films. This is an example of both of those that I don't hate, but I'm not blown away by. I thought it was, of the 3 VHS films I've seen, it's the one that I got the most out of, at least in my memory. I haven't seen either of those first two probably in 6 or 7 years since they first came out. But overall, it was tolerable. There are some bits of it that I think are better than others. I'm going to give this one 2.5 skulls right down the middle.
Okay. JD gives it a 2.5, and this is going to surprise him. I don't like this movie.
Wow. That actually does surprise me.
Yep,
I sent Michelle a message the night before we're recording this, last night. Not last night in October, last night here in August when we're recording this. And I said, it occurs to me, not only is this an anthology movie, it's found footage anthology movie, this is pretty much textbook made for you.
Yep. And I don't like it. I really like the VHS series. This is the weakest by far.
Wow.
I added this to our list of must discuss because, for one, I didn't think you had seen it, and I did want to hopefully make you miserable, which apparently backfired because you weren't miserable, and that kind of sucks. But I wanted to force. I did want to force you to watch this just in case, but also because I knew that you would be surprised that there is a found footage anthology movie that I did not like, and that is this one. It is the weakest by far. VHS 1 I loved. VHS 2 was a very different direction, but I also loved. VHS Viral just leans into being a ridiculous thing. It doesn't try to be a good movie. It just tries to be a fun movie. It is worth watching for the parallel dimension segment in that alone, which is phenomenal. Yeah.
We have a spoiler section. We can talk about all of this.
I'm gonna get into that. I gotta tell you.
Okay.
Anyway, VHS 94, which I have barely discussed, so I haven't spoiled anything. It's the weakest. It does not compare to the other ones at all. So much for making a strong statement with JD's making fun of me. I would say, without even having seen VHS 99, which apparently comes out a few days before this episode gets released, so we have not seen that one yet, so maybe I'm wrong, but this might still be the weakest of the series. Okay. And without even seeing the Snapchat original series VHS video horror shorts, I would think this is probably worse. There is a particular segment I really like that we will discuss in the spoiler section, but I will give this a 1.75.
Whoa!
2.125 average skull rating out of 5.
That kind of surprises me. Well, guys,
I don't like this one. Yep.
That's fantastic. We're going to find out why here in just a little while. If
after this commercial break. Do your teeth need whitening? Do you like eating a lot of broccoli? I got the thing for you. It's broccoli toothpaste. It whitens and gets your vegetable serving in for the day. Call 1-800-TOOTHPASTE.
What just happened?
We have a sponsor.
Well, our sponsor is 1-800-TOOTHPASTE, apparently. Oh, so yeah, guys, if you do want to go watch this found footage anthology horror film before we talk about it in spoilery depth, Michelle, what are they going to want to do right now?
You're going to want to hit pause, but there is a second step. Don't go yet. Step 1 is pause. Step 2 is watch the movie. Step 3 is come back afterwards.
Please
hear what
come
we
back.
Have to say about it.
We need you.
We do.
My sanity depends on
everybody. It does. It absolutely does. So come back when you're done, and you'll want to pause right now.
All right, Michelle, tell us why you didn't like this movie.
I don't think this movie could decide what tone it wanted to be. And I know that VHS is always, each segment is done by a different person, but they generally have a general theme and they understand. Like the first one tried to be scary. It didn't try to go campy. Viral went very campy and it really leaned into it. This could not figure out, even in the same segment directed by the same people, whether it wanted to be funny, whether it wanted to be kind of campy, whether it wanted to be purely horrific. It was so hard to tell how I was supposed to feel about these that it really affected my ability to enjoy it. I do want to talk about the one segment that I really truly do enjoy from this, which is the second or third one called The Subject, which is about the human experiments in Indonesia.
Okay.
The director of that, Timo Gianto, also did my favorite segment from VHS 2, which was Safe Haven, about a cult in Indonesia. And they are the director of
the Train
to Busan. Oh, what?
Just a quick spoiler warning for VHS 2. Is that the one where the weird goat monster comes in at the end?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that one.
Yep, that's the best one from VHS 2. And he is also the director of the upcoming Train to Busan remake, The Last Train to New York. So I am really, really excited to see what comes about with that, since 2 of the VHS movies he's done I guess I'm assuming I didn't actually look, but I am assuming that they, now I've lost my train of thought. just getting fixated on pronouns. But I'm excited to see The Last Train to New York. Train to Busan I was a huge fan of, and I've been very nervous, but knowing that they are a very good director, it gives me a little more faith in that other project that they are working on. So I do have to give a shout out to that one. I really like that segment. That is the reason it was not a 1 for me.
Which segment, as long as we've talked about which one was your most favorite, the one you did really like, what was your least favorite segment of this film?
Let me look at a list because I was not prepared for a least favorite. God, that's hard because I really didn't like them. I think the last segment about the vampire bombs essentially was solid, but not great. So it would probably have to be the empty wake, which is the funeral home zombie situation, because it was so unforgettable that I literally forgot until I just looked at my list of what segments are in this movie. That was my least favorite. Storm Drain was weird for me. That was one where I really could not tell, especially the ending, where she's like accidentally saying Ratma and then spitting stuff up at her coworker. But before that, it seemed like it was kind of trying to be very horrific. And then it just goes very campy. It was so hard to tell throughout this movie. Like, what are you aiming for? So.
Yeah, there was definitely, I thought, a certain amount of shifting in tone. I think you're going to get that with an anthology film, but I think you're also right. There's a lot of shifting just within each individual chapter that becomes kind of an issue. I will say that for me, why I'm okay with is none of the individual chapters. So you had Storm Drain. What is it? The Empty Wake?
Empty Wake.
The Empty Wake. The Subject, and then the whatever.
Terror.
What's it called?
Terror.
Terror is that's the name of the Nazi vampire blood bomb sequence.
Yep.
It's just called Terror.
It's just called Terror.
That's the best they could come up with.
Obviously.
Well, okay.
It's perfect. It sums up Nazi vampire.
It's way
extremists.
better than its title. I thought each of the individual segments were pretty all right. The part of this movie that I thought was the least interesting and the least effective was the wraparound.
Oh, I hated the wraparound.
The wraparound was
awful.
stupid. It was so dumb. And it was like, oh, it turns out one of these cops on the SWAT team is a member of this cult. How convenient.
And we're bad bitches who film snuff film that's clearly illegal. And I'm like, nothing I saw was that shocking. You can't make that your declaration and have these be the movies that represents that statement.
For sure. I do agree with you. I thought The Subject was the best of these segments. I thought that was the real standout here. I especially that's a concept that to me I don't think you could get away with doing it as found footage, right? But that general concept to me was the one that I would most be interested in seeing developed into a full feature, right? I liked the idea of that. I knew exactly what the reveal was gonna be as soon as we see the person looking from the perspective of a camera. But it was still really effective. I thought the monster dude with the crazy giant sword hands had a real sort of anime kind of feel to it that I really appreciated. That one is something that I legitimately was like, all right, this is a really interesting idea. I would like to see where this goes. I thought the exploding vampire blood Nazi thing was super cool, just in the sense of I really liked the way they developed the reveal of what this There's all these segments, right? These brief scenes where an alarm goes off and they go into this room and somebody shoots this thing in the head with a shotgun.
Yep.
This person. And then they come back and they do it again and they never explain it until they explain it. And I thought that was really effective. I liked that. I also really enjoyed and appreciated that that last segment about the vampire bomb blood Nazis looks like shit. Like, it really looks like somebody shot it on a cheap-ass home video camera
I was
in
gonna
1994.
That's the only one that feels true.
I feel like they probably actually shot that with vintage equipment. I don't think that was retrofitted. I think they actually shot that maybe even on VHS on a shitty old 90s VHS camera. And I really I appreciated that look. So yeah, overall, as found footage, I think of the 4 segments, I agree with you. The Empty Wake is probably the weakest of the 4 story segments. But none of this was found footage. I think because they're so short, they don't annoy me as much as they would if I had to. One of the biggest things for me with found footage is a first-person perspective for 90 minutes or more tends to get a little nauseating for me. It's something that I get distracted by. But I think that helped here. Honestly, also, I feel like if I were to go back and watch the first 2 VHS films, now some like 10 years later after they first came out, I frankly don't think I would be as down on them today as I was at that time. My thoughts and opinions on things have definitely changed a little bit. But what I would say is I think it's a movie definitely that you're not going to... I would say you probably won't regret watching it, but you shouldn't go out of your way to see it. It's not that level of compelling.
I think... So Terror was pretty solid. The subject,
except for the title.
Yeah, I know.
Jeez, it's just called... You're fucking with me.
It's just called Terror. I'm not, unless Wikipedia is wrong, but Wikipedia is never wrong.
That's wild.
If that segment had been earlier on, and then either before or after the subject, those 2 had been like earlier on, I would have appreciated it a lot more too, because by that point I had already seen the first half of the movie, which I did not like. I did not like the overarching thing. I thought it was just awful in so many different ways, the way that they pieced together like the actual anthology.
So basically your thought process on this is, I wish at the very least they had put the parts I liked up front so that I didn't have to sit through the whole thing.
Partially, yes, because by the time I was done with the subject, it was an hour and a half, pretty much. And I was like, okay, so we're wrapping up, and then we go into another one.
And then there's another one, yeah. It is long for an anthology.
You and I understand this perfectly, where if somebody is doing really well at a comedy show and it's an hour and a half and then they decide to go another half hour, it doesn't matter how funny they are.
Now.
Yeah, so that one was really good. They ended on a high note with the subject, and then they bring out another. It's like, I don't want to see another comedian. I want to go home.
Yeah, even if they had just flip-flopped those 2 and had the subject at the end, I think they at least would have had the benefit of going out on their strongest note.
Exactly, because it was clear that is going to be the best part. I don't know what could top that. And then they start going into this thing that doesn't top that. So I think the way that they structured this really didn't do well either. The Empty Wake should have still been in the middle, so that we could forget about it somewhere. But it definitely should have had Terror, and like the 2 best ones should not have just been at the end, and the best one should have been the last one as the anchor. I don't know. Terror on its own, I would have given a much higher score. I was just over it. I had already watched so much movie that I did not like. I had finally found something that I liked, and then they kept going.
Once again, I think something that they could have done to make this movie a whole lot better is maybe we just don't try the wraparound story at all. Just pull all of that out of here and just give us these 4 bits. Yeah. Just give us these 4 shorts.
ABCs of Death did that, didn't they? Where they were just like, hey, here's the title. Here you go. I don't mind that at all. I don't know why they had to throw in this story around it. It was just bad. Let's be honest. It seems like they did not care, and they went like, let's be just completely ridiculous and not care about the overarching story that will hold all of this together. It seemed like the part that they didn't put any effort into.
Yeah, and especially since that's actually kind of one of the gimmicks that the VHS franchise employed kind of heavily to make itself stand out, was like, as I recall, at least from the first 2, like I said, I've not seen Viral, but I have to assume it's the same way, is that idea of all of these being just having that wraparound story to connect the other segments together. And like, I don't mind that in the sense of like a like a Creep Show or a Tales from the Crypt, where the wraparound is more just interstitials. It's not another story on its own. But yeah, for something like this, they kind of trapped themselves into needing that wraparound story, and they did not do it justice in this one at all.
Nope, they didn't. And that's why I picked this one, because I did not like it, and I like found footage, I like anthology, and you don't like found footage, and you don't like anthology, so I thought either I would surprise you or I would torture you.
Well, you did
maybe
surprise
both.
me, for sure. You surprised me, and but also interesting that I'm the one who tends to not like this sort of stuff. You're the one who does, and I liked it more than you did.
Yeah, no, I really didn't like this. I would like to watch
wild.
the subject individually. I think that director has a lot going on, and I am so much more hopeful about The Last Train to New York, which I have been very, very, very reserved about, because Train to Busan is so good, and you're going to fuck it up with the remake. But maybe they won't. Maybe they won't, because that person is really good at what they do.
Yeah,
Timo Gianto. I Googled how to pronounce their name because I respect them so much, and I want to know who they are.
That was definitely the standout segment of this. It was just steps ahead of everything else that was going on, for sure. Yeah.
I don't have a lot more to say. That part was good. I don't care about the rest.
Well, guys, make sure then that you keep tuning in here. We got a few more days left in Spooktober. If our schedule is correct, Michelle, is it October 25th when they're listening to this?
It should be, if our schedule is correct, unless they waited a couple days. I mean, it could be October 28th. Maybe they're behind.
Hey, if you're behind, catch up already. Come on. No,
you should go back in time and listen to this when it drops at 12:01 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Right. Why are we not the highest priority on everything you do in your life, guys? Make sure you check us out on all of your social medias if you haven't done that. Well, not all of them. We're at least at the time of this recording, we're on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. You can go to @WeWatchShudder on all of those, and you will find us. And we would appreciate it if you do that. Coming up from here on out, guys, we've made it all the way up back to 2022. Every movie we review for the rest of Spooktober is going to be a movie from this year that came out between the beginning of the year and when we started the podcast. I'm pretty excited about that. There's a few of them still on the list here that I'm really eager to get to for a variety of reasons.
Yep.
There's at least one here that I deliberately have put off seeing because I knew I hadn't seen it yit when we came up with this idea, so I put it off.
I know which one you're talking about. Okay.
Yeah, and then there are a couple here that the rest of them I have seen. Couple of them that I really like. One of them that I frankly fucking hate, and I'm going to have a good time recording that episode. It's going to be a whole lot of fun.
You'll have to tune in for the next 6 days to figure out which movie we're talking about in October.
Make sure you check out all of those episodes. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.